the Turkish corridor, the heart of Eurasia, where the echoes of empires past still shape the realities of today. In a world increasingly complex and interconnected, the dance of geopolitics never stops. Today, we are not just crossing borders, we are crossing ideas, ideologies, and perhaps, controversially, the lines drawn by history itself. Why is Turkey a geopolitical pivot in a region rife with ancient rivalries and modern ambitions, from the corridors of the power in Ankara to the bustling markets of Central Asia and the conflict-prone territories of the Middle East? Prepare yourselves for a journey through the shadows of empires, the corridors of trade, and the volatile arena of international politics. This is a series of fortunate interviews. I'm your host Faizan Ali, and we are joined by Turan Gafarli.
Thank you so much, Turan, for joining the show. I really appreciate your time. Before we begin, can you give just a short brief of what are your focus, which themes, which areas are you focused on, and which regions is your mainly your focus?
So I'm first of all, I'm very thankful for your invitation for this show, and I would like to say that I'm mainly focused on Turkey and its close region, including South Caucasus, some parts of Middle East, if it's related to the project that I cover, also Central Asia towards China, and mainly the themes that I cover is related to economic trade and people-to-people relations, mainly about the corridors that it's currently on the agenda of many countries. Those relations that will help not just overcome the trade barriers between the countries, but also make their economic and social and political relations much closer. So these are the themes that I cover in a nutshell, but in detail we can obviously speak on it.
Of course. During our last conversation, you mentioned there are 3 or 4 main corridors which Turkey is mainly working on. Before we head into that, what is the reason why Turkey is so important in, I would say, not just Central Asia, even Europe and whole of Arabian region?
Well, first of all, the answer to the question to that is the historical legacy behind all of these activities, because Turkey's geographical position is very unique in the world. It's just in the middle of Europe and Asia. It's on the crossroads of many antique civilizations, also modern economic powerhouses such as European Union. And on the other side, there is China. Obviously, in the north, it's Russia, and on the south, developing Middle East with all those political turmoils, also with its economic boom, thanks to the resources. So Turkey is in very unique transit position. So that's why Turkey cannot just close their eyes for the economic developments or the political situations. So it needs to be in the middle of the everything. So that's why I would say Turkey's foreign policy is very much open right now and trying to elaborate all the opportunities in the region, also trying to help or mediate some processes, such as starting from the Arab Spring 10, 15 years ago, also current issues in Israel and Palestine matters. So Turkey cannot just isolate itself from the developments. Also, Turkey is NATO member, which makes its position very unique in its relations with both Muslim populated countries and also with the West, having good relations with Russia, having mediation in between Ukraine and Russia matters, also having good trade relations with China, which makes it a barrier country between European Union and China. So Turkey is in very center of these situations.
Yeah. I would say Turkey is trying to be neutral when it comes to trade and all the investment kind of situations. I feel like it is very important for a country like Turkey to be neutral, but is it possible for a country like Turkey to be neutral? And of course, it comes with a lot of barriers and constraints itself. How is it affecting Turkey's economy and Turkey itself?
Well, that's a very good question, because Turkey is is a country which sat on a huge legacy of the Ottoman Empire in the last 100 years. And with a new modern republic, it drew its face towards the West. So we cannot completely say Turkey is neutral, because in its very nature, Turkey cannot be neutral. It chose its own path almost 60 years ago by joining NATO and also becoming EU candidate country 30 years ago. So Turkey is already on the Western bloc. It's crystal clear. However, Turkey has aspirations to become regional power again, and not just regional power, maybe a global power in the future. So that's why Turkey needs to work with everyone, not just with the Western allies. That makes Turkey's position very, I would say, coherent, but also very interesting in the matter that it should be very much working with Russia, which is not on a good path with the Western countries, but Turkey being in the Western alliance still works with Russia, still mediating on the issues, still having a trade with Russia, despite all the war going in the north. And Turkey is the closest NATO ally country besides Poland to Russia as border kind of country. So that's why I would say Turkey has no other chance but working with these countries and not having a very, very clear position as the USA positions itself, because the United States is quite far away from this region, but Turkey is in the middle of it. So Turkey needs to have pragmatic foreign policy in such matters for its economic sake and also for the sake of its people's welfare, I would say.
It's a good point that you raised that Turkey is trying to be a global superpower as well. At the moment, when we look at the whole geopolitical situation, of course, USA is one of the leading superpowers. And then you have China and Russia, which are trying to be, in their own way, global leaders. I'm sure, you know, the analysis between the difference between China, Russia, and USA, because all three of them, they have a very different way of leading towards their perception of global superpower. How do you see Turkey playing a part in this? Because now there would be like four countries which will be trying to be global superpower. And what is actually the reason why Turkey wants to regain that, maybe you could say like Ottoman Empire 2.0?
I would say there is no other chance, because Turkey, the only disadvantage of Turkey is being very much dependent on external resources, because Turkey is not, I would say, fossil fuel rich country. That makes it its position very difficult, because in this case Turkey needs to work with Russia to transport its gas to Europe, also working with Iran, working with Central Asian countries. So Turkey is in very much need of a natural resource ally to make its economic work and make its political aspirations to become true. So Turkey cannot be like Russia, saying no to everyone and just isolate itself from other countries and go to the war, because Turkey doesn't have that kind of natural resource backing as the other countries do. But that doesn't make Turkey's position limited. We see now Turkey operates in Syria, operates in Libya, operates in Somalia, in many African countries. Turkey is most probably the second country in the world who has almost embassies in almost all African countries. The third country in the world behind USA and China with diplomatic representations in the world. Turkey is also operating in Azerbaijan, in the South Caucasus, has quite armament sellings to Ukraine as well. So we see that Turkey's position is being quite open on this matter. In the last 10, 15 years, after the economic boom in 15 years ago, Turkey's economy had the power to promote these aspirations. But in the last few years, we see that Turkey's economy decline, unfortunately. So Turkey is becoming much more dependent on the economic developments in the region. So it's not very easy in this situation to make those independent steps again. However, in the beginning of the question, you said like these development models. Obviously, Turkey is much more closer to the United States because of its democratic nature. Turkey is a democratic country with free elections and free political environment, compared obviously to the Eastern nations as Russia or China or Iran even. So some people say that why Turkey is not joining BRICS or other Eastern kind of alliances. It's a bit very, very, very difficult, not just because Turkey is NATO member, but also because Turkey's political nature is quite different from those countries. So that's why Turkey is not in a position like Iran or like Saudi Arabia or India to make that crystal clear choice to be in the Eastern Bloc. Turkey is the West by nature. So that's why it's the eastern part of the West, but still the West. So that's why Turkey's aspirations still needs to be considered in the bloc of the Western Alliance. But how it will be changed in the next 15, 20 years, it obviously depends on the domestic politics of Turkey.
Yeah. Before we head into the investment side, I just want to ask one more thing. It's a little bit political because I feel like most of the countries, regardless of where you are, whenever elections happen, there's always some sort of, we can say, I don't want to use the word rigging because it feels a little bit more, like directly targeting somebody. But we can say like, ups and downs in politics in different regions of elections. This year, Turkey's elections were very close. And even though Erdogan has been winning for a while now, I think this is his third tenure, if I'm not mistaken. But at least for a decade, he has been in the has been the president. How do you see the shift? And this has been, it was also, I saw one of the channels which was suggesting that in Turkey, this has been the highest turnout in the elections as well. So which shows that, like a lot more people are inclined to go to for voting now. And people are getting much more interested in politics as well. How is the shift between from the last elections to now, if you have observed both elections?
Well, you're quite right. It's President Erdogan's 10th year as a president, and before that, he already almost had another 10 years as prime minister. So combining both, we can say that the children who were born in 2002, they didn't see anyone rather than President Erdogan in power. So his party and himself is dominating last 2 decades of Turkish politics, clearly dominating because he won all elections, including referendums, until the elections on this March. I mean, like just a month ago. But we also need to remember that these elections were local elections. So local elections, compared to the general elections in Turkey, is very much based on the candidate. So people who are actually voting for a candidate, loving the candidate as a mayor, can go for him regardless of his party. So many people actually voted for the candidate itself, but that doesn't mean that people are not angry with the President Erdogan's party in current economic climate. Many people who went to the ballots, they were mostly deciding their votes for the economic situation in this country. Mostly the people who are above 65 years old, I mean the pensioners. The pensioners were the main, I would say, bulk of Erdogan's votes for the last 2 decades. But this year, pensioners are not getting the raise as they were expected. Their economic conditions are much worse than the most probably 10, 15 years ago. So they boycotted or elected against President Erdogan. So that's why we can say that these elections were clear warning by its electors to President Erdogan and his party. But I would be not so pessimistic while assessing President Erdogan's position, because Erdogan's personality cult is different from his party. Yes, people are voting for his party because of his name, but they are not voting for his party's candidates because of him. So they love him, but not his party. That's very much correlation in the current climate. But if tomorrow there will be general elections and President Erdogan would say, I am candidate again, I'm pretty sure that he will win. But will he win as easily as in the last 2 decades? No, I don't think so. So that's why this is very much a difficult environment for him and his party, but it's a new hope for the opposition, for the young generation, which mostly voted for opposition parties. And currently, Erdogan's party is in its weakest. So it will show in the next 4 years, which President Erdogan still holds power, what the changes will bring. And obviously, maybe we will discuss it as well. The constitution changes are number one topic in current Turkish political discussions. Time will show what will happen next.
Yeah. Is there any other leader other than Erdogan which has that much, you can say, power, or who is gaining much more attraction from the youth? Because, like whenever we talk about Turkey, from an outside perspective, somebody who is not in Turkey, who is not following Turkish politics regularly, To be honest, I don't know anybody's name other than Erdogan. So, is there any other leader who's coming up who we can say that, like, okay, maybe not now, maybe in the next 5 years, he could be next Erdogan
Yes, that's
in terms
crystal
of
clear right
popularity?
now. Definitely, it's very very clear right now, especially after the last elections, because it's very natural for you to say that we don't know anyone rather than President Erdogan's name. It's very natural because he was around for last 2 decades. He met all sorts of presidents in the world. He saw 3, 4 different American presidents, for example. So that's why his name is very prominent in the foreign media as well. And that was a problem. That was a problem for Turkish opposition for last 10 years to not to have presentable name in against of his popular name, because President Erdogan uh, doesn't matter about his mistakes or his I would say political moves. People still love him, love his personality. And he was young. He was young, but not anymore. He's almost 70 years old. So that's why he's also maybe losing his friends around his circle. There is not a single name that was with him like 20 years ago. Either outstepped him, or they went exile, or they are not in active politics. So he's alone right now, and that name to go against him is clear right now. And his name is Ekrem İmamoğlu, who is Istanbul's mayor, elected second time, much younger, but the perspective shows the similar path as Erdogan, because he has the same motives. He has almost similar voice, similar approach to the people as Erdogan did 20 years ago, like going house by house, gaining votes, speaking to people directly. And this guy is doing the same, exactly same actually. And they are from the same region, which is like the northern Turkey, the Black Sea region, which has a great appeal to Turkish people, not just because of their majority in power places, but also I would say their good mixture with conservatism and I would say laicism at the same time. So İmamoğlu is a name that opposition is actually starting to unite around him, and he's gaining also a good PR in abroad. And I would say some people actually in opposition are in a very much fearful that he can become actually second Erdogan. So when he comes to
Yeah.
power, he can do the same in the next 20 years and change the course of the country for his own desires. The one who is observing Turkey from outside needs to know this very well, that Turkey is a personality cult country. If these people love one person, they will love him until his death. So this is like kind of also danger for the Turkish democracy as well. But I see his name and other minor names who are actually preparing maybe to outstep President Erdogan from his seat in the next 5 years. That's quite reality. That can happen in a very high chances.
Yeah. I'm surprised that Erdogan didn't prepare anybody through his own party.
That's a good question as well. But that's very normal for a man in his position, because he saw a coup attempt in 2016, active coup attempt against his own power. There were people inside of his own party who tried to maybe outstep him when he appointed the prime minister in 2015 in his place. He tried to gain power and maybe in the next few years to kick him out. So he was very much fearful that when he puts someone young, someone perspective as his heir, he can lose power. So it was very natural for him not to bring someone out. But now there are names, especially huge name is uniting around his son-in-law, Selçuk Bayraktar, who is a producer of these drones, Baykar drones. So his name is being evaluated in his circles. He has popularity, but he doesn't have any political background, experience, or anything like that. He's just an engineer who was trained in MIT in the United States. Quite popular with his kind of moves in the wars, both in Azerbaijan, in Ukraine. But also he's a billionaire. He was in the Forbes list on March with assets of 1.5 billion US dollars, personal wealth. So he's quite wealthy person as well. But I would say he will not have a chance in front of İmamoğlu if they race today, because there is political experience difference. But there's also name of Hakan Fidan, foreign minister of Turkey and former head of intelligence of Turkey, who is quite popular as well, who is very experienced in the state matters. And I would say maybe he will be on trial as well, because he just became foreign minister last year. and maybe they are trying to make him experienced until the next elections of Turkey. And President Erdogan made clear that he won't run again, but I am seeing it with, I would say, a flawed description, because he said it before maybe 6-7 times and he ran again. So you will never know.
Okay, coming back to investment side now, and the project development. You mentioned three corridors. One of them, I think, is a 745-mile railroad and road network, which I believe is estimated to cost about 17 billion, and it is scheduled to be completed by 2028, and it is connecting through Iraq, Turkey. And Turkey itself has pledged to invest about 5 billion for the road project. Also, IMEC was signed, where surprisingly Turkey was not invited, and Erdogan had some strong words to say about that as well. And you also mentioned a few other projects which are important when it comes to the corridors through Turkey. Can you elaborate on these projects? Which one are you more hopeful for? What are the limitations, or what are the things which you feel could actually hinder the development of these projects? And what are the possibilities if they actually materialize? How could it actually benefit the countries which are being connected?
Well, the first thing when we say corridors, it comes to mind the Belt and Road project of China, which was initiated a few years ago as kind of the largest project in the world of humanity, as at least in the history of China, that China is opening project to the world. And in that project, there were two major corridors, one going from north, from Russian kind of traditional route to Europe, and second going from the south, as you very much know, from Pakistan to the seas and to the world. So China is effectively using both of these corridors until the war in Ukraine. So last year, Russia kind of war in its peak very much stopped the security of the northern corridor. So northern corridor going through the Russia is not in very much in popularity in Europe, at least. So that's why China is looking for alternatives, and Turkey is in the very center of it. And Turkey is really wanting to make this middle corridor work. So starting from China, going through the Central Asia, towards Turkey, and then to Europe. That would be a great project for Turkey. But that's very, I would say, hopeful from the short, maybe mid-future, because there are lots of investments needed in the road. But you mentioned about this new 17 billion project going through Iraq, and that's the latest one. It's called Development Road. It helps Turkey connect to Qatar and also to Iraq and Kuwait. And that will make Iraq's infrastructure much better, which was damaged after ISIS, and that's why Iraq is very much interested in it. It's also projected to end the terrorist activities in the region as well. And also it's very much projected to have a safe passage through the seas in between Iraq and Iran towards Turkey, and then to Black Sea or maybe to Europe. But this project is actually helping one thing. You also mentioned that IMEC, which was introduced last year's G20 meeting in India, and that's a huge project initiated by United States and India to overcome the BRI, Belt and Road project's power, let's say, coming from China. And it starts from India going to Middle East, mainly for the Saudi Arabia, and then to Israel, and then to Greece, and towards the Europe. But the main problem is here that the costs. You need to twice actually drop ship and then get into the land infrastructure, and then again to the port, and then again to Europe. And first problem is there is a conflict in Israel, there is a turmoil in Israel. And secondly, the main question, you are sending all these shipments from India to Greece, to Pira port, which is owned by Chinese. So what's actually like the end goal of this? Like in the very end, you again giving the profit to Chinese, control to Chinese, because Chinese are not very much, I would say, sleeping by this time by buying the main ports in Europe, in Belgium, in Italy, in Greece. So wherever you go, you will end up with Chinese. So in this case, Turkey was, as you said, President Erdogan said that there cannot be any corridor without Turkey because it bypasses Turkey, the Indian corridor. And that's why they said, okay, if they want to bypass us, we will initiate this development road. We will get our goods from Qatar, this Basra, and we'll help our partners in China to overcome this stress, and maybe Indians as well, and then send these goods with much more developed from Iraq towards Turkey and then to Europe. And that's very, very vital and very much helpful because thinking that there was problems in the Suez Canal a few years ago, it can happen again. There are lots of difficult activities around Somalia as well. So this project can actually work. And that's why I believe that Turkey's corridor project is not just corridors, not just economic corridors, but it's giving Turkey as a vital and valuable transit partner. And Turkey is very much interested in protecting this name because losing this transit role will not only lose billions for Turkish economy, but will also lose Turkey's political leverage above the other countries. So it's very, very important for Turkey.
Yeah. How does it actually reflect on USA? Because I feel like a lot of these corridors now they are connecting the land blocks much more strongly than the sea block. So when we consider land blocks, we are considering Central Asia, connecting Central Asia and the whole of Asia to Europe and
Yes.
to Arab countries now. And this whole block, when it becomes like self-sustaining, where's the role of USA in this?
Well, US is currently like fighting on maybe three different areas in the world. First, obviously in Ukraine. Secondly, still presence in Middle East, trying to overcome, I would say, Palestinian ambitions via Israel. And third, I believe the most important one for the next 1-2 decades in Taiwan, overcoming Chinese sea power by allying itself with Australia and Japan. And also there's Philippines in the area, also maybe India. And, US is dragging India to this competition is not just because they love India. It's just because India can be the only opposing force in Asia against China. So that's why they are seeing India as a very vital country. Let's think properly and pragmatically. What India has to offer to the world comparing to China. China is almost producing the largest, I would say, outcomes of the modern world, especially technological products compared to India. And that's why it's not very logical to overcome Chinese superiority by just using India as exporter country. Doesn't make sense. And also we cannot forget that Chinese exports are 93% on the sea and just 7% on the land. So that's why when we consider these corridors going through Asia to Europe by the land, we only see this cake of 7% trying to, get every country wants to get this bite from 7%, but it's very small cake. Actual cake is in the sea. So that's why they are promoting this Indian channel directly going to Middle East through the sea. But that doesn't make sense because you're unloading twice in the Middle East and in a region that every day can be, explode. There are lots of activities going on there. Yemen is in civil war. You're trying to ship everything from Saudi Arabia to Israel, and there is conflict going on there as well. And then you need to have a very prosperous Eastern Mediterranean to ship everything to Europe, which Turkey doesn't let as well, because there's a Cyprus issue in the Eastern Mediterranean. And besides that, there is a huge Turkish naval activity in the area as well. They will not let everything easily go to the other regions. So that's why I believe the US aspirations is just purely to overcome the Chinese aspirations by using other countries as a leverage. In the very essence, I don't think US thinks about India, nor about the Middle East, nor anything else. It's just purely to overcome Chinese aspirations, especially in the Pacific. So that's why US is trying everything to overcome that in the next maybe 10, 20 years. But I don't think it will happen with India. They need to find some other solutions, especially losing as a NATO partner as Turkey in such environment. Obviously, it's not vital. So why to do that?
Yeah. What's the situation with Iran? How are the relations developing with Iran and Turkey? And I believe, like historically, most countries, even Pakistan and all the other Muslim countries, they have a very strong bloc. It could be a very strong bloc, but it never materialized. And one of the biggest problems in all of this whole bloc was considered internal religious beliefs as well. Because Iran is a Shia majority and most of the other Islamic countries are Sunni. How do you see this play in the future? Because now they're trying to build back that relationship, but there's still some tension.
Yeah, that's very true because Turkey historically had differences with Iran, and Iran had differences with all countries because Iran had
Yeah.
this great ambition to create this Shia crescent in the Middle East, especially using Lebanon, using Syria, using maybe Yemen as well. And it backfired because of the Arab Spring. Now all these almost countries are in instability or in civil war in Syria, in Yemen. Lebanon is a failed state almost because of its economy just went down, and everything going on Palestine as well. So Iran actually lost that, I would say, advantage in the Middle East, but that doesn't consider as a complete loss because we saw new player entered the Middle East 2 years ago. China brokered the deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran, first time in history actually, bringing these two major rivals together. And in the case of Turkey and Iran, these two countries are very much dependent on each other because Iran needs to have some exit towards the world, and it can only go through Turkey because Russia is not an option anymore. Russia is also under sanctions. Russia and Iran are two countries in the world, the major countries who are sanctioned by the West, the heaviest sanctioned countries. So that's why it's very much only one option. It's Turkey, and obviously the two kind of major issues about their friendship is the Kurdish separatism in the region. Both Iran and Turkey suffers from that. So that's why they are working on it for almost maybe like 40, 50 years. Turkish and Iranian intelligence is working together to suppress this separatist movements in the region. So, but aren't there any differences? Yes. And current major difference is also related with the corridors because after the war in Karabakh, 3 years ago now, the major issue is to create a Zengezur corridor, which is a very short corridor in between Azerbaijan and its exclave Nakhchivan, going through the Armenian territory and connecting Turkey to Central Asia directly. Until that point, the connection points go through Georgia or Iran. So if this corridor happens, Iran is out of the game. So that's why Iran is very much against of it. And Iran says this opposition by naming like we are next to Armenia, we will not let Turkey to, I would say damage Armenian territorial integrity, but it's not about territorial integrity. As I said in the US case, in this case, Iran doesn't actually care about Armenia. It's just because of the Iranian, I would say, geopolitical interest in the region to make Turkey and Azerbaijan and other countries forcing them, passing through Iran, not losing this leverage. So in this case, Iran and Turkey is mostly not accepting the same position over the South Caucasus matters and in a general picture about the corridors, which are actually, not just kicking Iran out of the game, but also losing Iran's heavily sanctioned economy billions of dollars in the maybe next 50 years. So that's why Iran is currently trying to play safe, as we saw in the missile issue with Israel as well. Nothing major happened. So Iran doesn't have that kind of big playing space as it had maybe like 15 years ago. So Iran is very much limited right now. But that doesn't mean that Iran is not working with the regional countries, especially with Turkey. It has good relations in average by not touching some red lines. Besides that, I believe Iran will also face some major transformations in the next few years because of economy. Iran's economy is not very much working in the current years. That's very open. That can be seen.
Yeah. Coming back to Turkey, we were discussing about that there is a change coming in the constitution in Turkey. Do you have any idea like what are the major changes that they have already proposed, and what could be the implications for those changes if they happen? And what is the general perception of the public if those changes are actually implemented?
Yeah, I mean, constitutional change in Turkey has been discussed for a long time, but it requires a general consensus in the parliament, which the power party, Erdogan's party, doesn't have. Even with his allies in the parliament, he doesn't have majority. And that's why he needs support of opposition. That's why he needs to sit down with the opposition party leaders to discuss some middle way. His opponent, his main opponents, saying that the constitution change is very much needed by Erdogan to make his position until his death, because he cannot be elected anymore. He cannot be a candidate anymore. So that's why he needs a constitutional change to say that, okay, the constitution is fresh, so nothing counts before it. So I can be actually president for the first time. That's a very, very good way to outstep this time limit. But obviously, it's not the only thing that's being discussed. That's only maybe the hidden agenda behind of it. The main issue is about the, I would say, in the front, it's about the civil liberties. In the behind, it's about the general fate of Turkey, because some people are actually worried about the changes in the first four points of the constitution of Turkey, which cannot be changed or cannot even proposed to be changed. That they are mentioning the capital of Turkey being Ankara, language being Turkish, and also Turks being as the main kind of part of this country. You know, it's about the unity and it's about the unilateral system of Turkey. It's about the regime itself. It's about the Republican regime as well. So many people in opposition actually fear that maybe the Power Party would play to change that, and it can be a completely new republic for Turkey. And that's I would say, a danger essence for the opposition, that they don't want it to be changed. But President Erdogan met opposition leader 2 days ago, and they discussed it. And opposition leader said that we will not support this new constitution until this current constitution is actually being implemented. So they're actually drawing the attention to some abuses made by the government in the last few years. So that's why I believe if there will be a general consensus between the main opposition, and the ruling party, it will bring something maybe new, but it won't be a complete solution for all problems of Turkey, because current constitution had been amended many times and actually introduced after the coup in 1980. So it's lacking as well, but we don't see its complete implementation until now. So what will new constitution change? So, and also the discussions are not being made publicly. No one knows actually what they mean by the new constitution. So there's no draft, there is no publicly discussed points. They're just saying that, okay, we'll get 400 MPs in the parliament to pass it, not without asking the people, you know, otherwise they need to go to referendum. And I'm pretty sure that in referendum it will be either head to head or it will be no. So that's why they're trying to currently, Erdogan's party, make it 400 in the parliament and not asking people, directly pass it in the parliament. And I think it will be a huge mistake by not asking people, especially in current environment, especially with the current youth, which are completely outside of these discussions. And it's a major and crucial kind of turn in Turkish history, most probably. And it will depend on the outcomes, but it will determine the fate of the Turkish Republic in the next years, for sure. That's quite true. That's the most important thing in right now.
But if Turkish is not the main language and Turkish people are not prioritized, then who?
That's the people say that it's a nationalist paranoia in Turkey, but I don't think it's paranoia, because it can happen, because Turkey is a country that everything can happen. And that's why there maybe the paranoia is mainly based about breaking down the unilateral structure, the sovereignty structure of Turkey, and making it maybe federal republic, making it maybe like divided into different states inside the state. So this paranoia is actually focusing on Turkey's position as one country. So they are fearful that it can be divided, it can be the central power may be lost in some provinces, especially thinking about this in the context of separatism in the eastern Turkey. One can easily understand why it can be very dangerous. Also, we shall not forget that there are almost maybe 10 million, I would not say refugees, but maybe illegals in Turkey as well. And that creates another dimension, because there are almost maybe more than a million people in Turkey from Syria that never saw Syria. They were born in Turkey. They have no loyalty maybe to Syria, maybe no loyalty to Turkey. And we don't know actually in this country what they will aspire in the next 10, 15 years. Maybe they will build their own party. Maybe they will seek also some different aspirations from Turkey's, I would say, citizens. So no one can predict right now. There is like major shift in the last 10, 15 years after the Syrian civil war. And there is also major changes after the people who came from the other countries to Turkey and they couldn't go to Europe. They stood in Turkey and they don't know what to do. So what this economy will do with this? So that's why the new constitution is very important to see what they will cover. And will they cover them as well or not? What will happen to those 10, 15 million people? What they will think about this? So that's why this paranoia is still paranoia, but it can be logical paranoia if the changes will be accordingly. That's why I think it's the most important topic in the last years.
Yeah. Before we end our conversation, what are the main highlights that you see Turkey being involved in 2024 and next year?
In domestic politics, that's constitution. In foreign policy, I think the major issue is currently about the US election, because the US election is very much effective on the Turkish politics as well. Turkey is expecting to make some major moves according the elections in Washington, and they will see how it ends in November, and then make some maybe vital moves. It can happen in Syria, it can happen maybe in Libya or in Somalia as well. But the major issue that can happen in a quite short period is a huge military operation in Iraq, because Turkey, as it fights with the PKK, the terrorist organization, they are very much determined to clear them, wipe them off. So that's why they will definitely, it's already been discussed, they will have a military operation in Iraq. So it will happen most probably in the beginning of summer. So it's a major kind of foreign policy attribute towards there. Second, maybe it's still ongoing problems in Ukraine and Russia. Turkey is very much interested in being mediator there. And thirdly, I think that can be also very much priority, the ongoings in Palestine. Turkey is very much, it's openly on the side of Palestine, obviously. And that's why they're trying to mediate in between the Israel and Palestine issue. That's why Turkey wants to lead this course and continue it. And obviously, Turkey has problems with the European Union. Last report was not very good. So they will still continue to have these talks with the European Union. The United States, we already said. And the Middle East is obviously always on the agenda. Turkey is reiterating its relations before, as it had like good relations before the Arab Spring, has good relations with Egypt now, had a visit to Iraq. Later on, there is a possibility to have maybe another talks with Saudi Arabia on the recent matters. That's another possibility. And also having footsteps towards the Central Asia is always on agenda as well. There will be a new developments there as well in 2024. But the major issue is about the economy in Turkey. That's the number one priority for all citizens living in this country, and they are very much interested the inflation to be stopped, because otherwise Turkey is losing, I would say, blood in nutshell because of this economic development. I mean, Turkey is not in the situation to act independently as much as it wants without economy. That's not possible. So that's why President Erdogan's number one priority is also to make the economy back its own steps. So economy, and these later on all these foreign policy projects, and later on obviously the constitution issue. It will be the most interesting year, most probably 2024, in the context also American elections as well. And we'll see how it goes.
Thank you so much, Turan. I really appreciate your time. And until next time, enjoy yourself and have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.